Welcome to the 21st episode in my drug name pronunciation series here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. This is episode 245 overall. I'm your host, Kim Newlove. I am a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I'm a voice actor and a podcast host. My specialties are medical narration and podcasting. I run an online business called The Pharmacist Voice, which you can find at thepharmacistvoice.com. Today, we're talking about Naltrexone. If you're new to my drug name pronunciation series, welcome. I love these. In this series, I break down drug names into syllables, explain which syllables have the emphasis, and reveal the source of my information. Then I put the written pronunciations in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com so you can see them and use them right away. The purpose of my pronunciation episodes is to provide the intended pronunciations of drug names from reliable sources so that you feel more confident saying them and less frustrated learning them. Let's get started with naltrexone. First of all, what is naltrexone? Naltrexone is a prescription medication used to treat both alcohol use disorder and opioid use disorder. As I published this in October of 2023, naltrexone is available as an oral tablet or an injection, an IM injection. The pill form of naltrexone is used once daily for alcohol use disorder, but the injectable version can be administered every 28 days for both alcohol use disorder and opioid use disorder. So you can have either or both disorders. Vivitrol is the brand name of the injectable. In fact, the box actually says naltrexone for extended release, injectable suspension. So again, Vivitrol is an extended release IM injectable suspension. I'll go over the pronunciation of naltrexone first, then we'll go to Vivitrol second. Naltrexone has 3 syllables. Nal, which rhymes with pal. TREX, which rhymes with Chex, as in either a box of Chex, you write a check for money, or Chex like the breakfast cereal that's sold here in the United States. And own is the last syllable, as in I own my motorcycle. When you read the drug name naltrexone, I know that the last syllable is spelled O-N-E. It looks like the number 1, O-N-E 1. Why then is it pronounced own, as in O-W-N, own? Now, it's because the pronunciation guide from my source told me that the O in O-N-E is a long O sound. Therefore, it is pronounced own instead of one. Put that all together, you get naltrexone. Emphasize the middle syllable, TREX. Listen to the emphasis as I say it slowly. Naltrexone. Naltrexone. Let's move on to Vivitrol. Like many brand name drugs, Vivitrol only has 3 syllables. The generic drug name, naltrexone, only had 3 syllables as well. Back to Vivitrol, the 3 syllables in Vivitrol are Viv, I, Trol. First syllable is Viv, like the first name Vivian, which is a female first name here in the United States. I, which is the schwa I sound or a short I sound. It's the same I sound as the I in the word decimal, I. And the third syllable is trol, which rhymes with fall, as in October, right now, is the season of fall. Put that all together and you get Vivitrol. Emphasize the first syllable, viv. Listen to the emphasis as I say it slowly. Vivitrol. 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 There you have it, 2 3-syllable words today, naltrexone and Vivitrol. You can find both written pronunciations in the show notes for this episode on thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and find episode 245. Now, how did I know how to say naltrexone and Vivitrol? Naltrexone is in the USP Dictionary online, and Vivitrol was in the medication guide on vivitrol.com. Let me unpack that for you. Here we go. Regarding naltrexone, I find almost all of my generic drug name pronunciations in the USP Dictionary online. That was the case here as well. Have you ever heard of the USP Dictionary? It is a subscription-based online reference, and I love it. I have a link to it in the show notes, which you can find at thepharmacistvoice.com. Why do I love this reference? It's because the USP dictionary breaks down drug names into syllables, tells you which syllables are emphasized, and provides the written pronunciations. There's even a pronunciation guide so that you know if the vowels are long or short and how to say the consonants. The downside is that the written pronunciations are provided, but the verbal pronunciations are not. So basically, in these drug name pronunciation episodes, I am giving you the contents of the dictionary in verbal form, in audio form. Plus, another downside is that that reference is not free. The USP Dictionary Online is a subscription based reference. It's still my favorite, and I use it for podcast episodes and voiceover projects every month, but it does have a fee. If you find yourself looking up how to correctly say drug names a lot, like I do, consider subscribing to the USP Dictionary Online. I am not compensated in any way for talking about the USP Dictionary Online or the drug names that I pick for my pronunciation episodes. And at this time, I just want to give a quick shout out to the USP Legal Department for allowing me to publish their written pronunciations in my podcast show notes and YouTube videos. Thank you. As always, you know I appreciate you. Next, where did I find the pronunciation of Vivitrol? Finding the pronunciation was very straightforward. I went to Vivitrol.com, clicked on the medication guide link at the top of the website, and found the written pronunciation at the very top of the medication guide. I also listened to a direct to consumer video on the Vivitrol website. About 3 minutes into the video, the narrator says the drug name flawlessly. I like it when I can both see the written pronunciation and hear the verbal spoken pronunciation. That is ideal for learning how to correctly say drug names. I trust both the written and spoken pronunciation from this drug's website. After all, drug sponsors tend to publish only accurate information when it comes to pronunciations. If you're a pharmacist, you may be wondering why I picked Naltrexone for this episode since it's actually pretty easy to say, right? So here's my explanation. I picked Naltrexone because October is National Substance Abuse Prevention Month, and naltrexone helps individuals with both alcohol use disorder and opioid use disorder. Naltrexone helps with both recovery and relapse. It helps with recovery and it prevents relapse. My hope is that the listeners who find this podcast episode will feel empowered to talk about substance abuse prevention and treatment with confidence because they know how to say naltrexone and Vivitrol. I don't know about you, but when I don't use the right lingo, people aren't sure if they can trust what I'm saying. Once you know how to say drug names correctly, you will feel more confident saying them. And whomever you're speaking to can just focus on what you're saying instead of whether you're pronouncing a drug name right or not and if they can trust you. So I hope this episode helped you today. Thank you for joining me today to learn how to say naltrexone and Vivitrol. To find the show notes for this episode, go to thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab, and search for episode 245. In the show notes, you'll find the written pronunciations of naltrexone and Vivitrol. You'll also find a link to the USP Dictionary Online, a link to the pronunciation guide for the dictionary, which, by the way, is available at no cost on the American Medical Association's website. You'll also find my social media links and more. Check out those show notes, thepharmacistvoice.com. If you know someone who needs to learn how to say naltrexone and Vivitrol, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist's Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next Friday.